Now, many people living with disabilities in rural and township communities have raised concerns about the challenges they face every day due to a lack of services. In 2018, South Africa had about 3 million people living with disabilities, equating to about 7.5% of the country's population. Africa Disability Alliance says the constant need for people living with disabilities to fight for resources calls for government to urgently intervene. Newzroom Africa's Nasiphi has the story.
The impact of COVID-19 has led to greater hardships for most people, particularly those with disabilities in rural areas and townships. Patisile Sombo, who has lived in the newly established informal settlement in Mfuleni for over a year, is a person with disability. He says living in a township with little to no resources makes life harder for him to go about his day-to-day business. Last year, December, President Cyril Ramaphosa said in developing the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, more needs to be done to empower, capacitate, train and employ more persons with disabilities, while making more workspaces more accessible. But Patisile, who was currently unemployed, survives on a 1,800 Rand monthly disability grant, which supports him and his late sister's children. He says getting a job is an impossible task. The Africa Disability Alliance says it has noted a lack of infrastructure development in townships to accommodate persons with disabilities, which hinders access to resources. They are now challenging government in policy implementation.
Resources and accessibility for persons in townships is in a dire state. It's actually a disaster on its own. It's quite sad to note that there are people who have the advantages or the privilege of being in a society outside of the townships that caters for their wheelchair ramps. It caters demarcated parking. It caters for a guide person when you're blind, or guide dogs. But when you visit our townships, those are just not available. They're actually a luxury, if I can put it as such. It does really show how marginalized they are, and it shows that even with planning, I'm looking at landscape planning, they are an afterthought.
For Newzroom Africa on Channel 405, I am Nasiphi in Mfuleni.